All right. Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to part 3 of this 4-part series, Introversion Redefined. And today I'm going to be talking all about leveraging your energy for success. Because if you're an introvert, intentionally learning to work with your energy is going to turn your energy into what I call your secret weapon. So I'm super excited to be sharing this with you today because this can be really a game changer when it comes to showing up in your life and feeling not like at the effect of your energy, but really being able to take control of it. So welcome to this third part. If you have watched the previous ones, thank you for coming back. If you are watching the replay, thank you for watching the replay. And if you are here, then leave me a comment. Let me know you're here. Let me know what you are excited to learn about today. And yeah, if you have any questions as we go through, please drop those over into the comments and I will be catching those as we are going through. So with that in mind, we're going to get started. So I am super excited to be hosting this 4-part series this month because, and I've said this before, but I do feel like there is this collective misunderstanding around what it means to be introverted, even amongst introverts. And if you don't understand this fundamental part of yourself at this basic level, then how can you be unconditionally confident and thrive? And when I say unconditionally confident, what I mean by that is being able to walk into any situation, even those like more extroverted situations, and feel 100% confident in yourself and in who you are. And that is what happens when you take the time to really understand what it means to be introverted, because you can really embrace who you are and how you need to show up in the world and not feel bad about it, not feel guilty, not feel like you have to change that. So that is the goal of this 4-part series, is I'm really bringing it back to the basics to help you understand yourself at a fundamental level so that you can get to that place where you are enjoying that unconditional confidence no matter where you go and no matter what situation you're in. So before we dive into today's topic, let me introduce myself in case you are new to me and new to my world. I'm Vicki Regina. I'm a certified coach. I have been coaching for about 7 years, and I do work exclusively with introverts, and that's because one, I'm a hardcore introvert, so I understand the struggles that come with that. I have worked in corporate for 23 years. I don't work in corporate anymore, but I worked in corporate for 23 years. I was a manager of international teams, so I understand how challenging that can be as an introvert to navigate those paths when we feel like you have to be more extroverted, which you don't. When I was originally starting my coaching practice years ago, I didn't focus exclusively on introverts. That came a few years later, almost like a calling, if you will. I just kept hearing this little whisper saying, you need to focus on introverts. And that's because I felt like most introverts, and I feel like when I'm working with my clients, when they first come to me, this is true, but I feel like most introverts feel like their introversion is limiting them, mainly because society has tried to tell them that that's the case. In reality, your introversion isn't limiting you. It is your thoughts, your beliefs, your understanding of what introversion is that's limiting you. And that we can fix. You don't need to fix being an introvert. You don't need to change that. But we do need to work on the thoughts, the understanding, and the beliefs around believing that it's holding you back so that you can step out in front of that and really thrive in who you are, as you are. So last week, over the past 2 weeks, in part 1 and part 2, I talked about the common misconceptions that a lot of introverts believe, which lead to them thinking that they're limited. So broke those down, started to challenge those. That was part 1. And then last week in part 2, I started to get into, this is one of my favorite things to talk about, the biology around what makes an introvert an introvert. What makes us different than extroverts? Because there are some biological differences. So if you missed either of those, definitely go back and check those out because they can be really empowering to start to break down those beliefs and also to really understand that you are the way you are and you can't overcome it, fix it, or change it. And so that can give you some confidence in not trying to force yourself to do that. Now, for today, we are going to be talking about your energy, because this is something that's very common for introverts to struggle with, having enough energy and not feeling drained on a regular basis because you're out in the world and just all these things are going on and draining your energy. So today I'm going to be talking about why the topic of energy is so important for introverts. I'm going to talk about how our energy works as introverts so that you have a better understanding of it, so that you don't judge yourself quite so harshly for getting drained. I'm going to talk about some more specifically about what drains you. One of these may be a little surprising. It might be something you hadn't thought of or heard about before. I'm also going to be talking a little bit about what refuels you as an introvert, and then I'm going to pull it all together and talk about how you can intentionally begin to work with your energy so that you again can thrive as an introvert. So as we go through this, if you have any questions, please put them in the comments. I will be checking in on those and answering any questions that come in. If you have any comments, if anything is resonating with you, then definitely leave a little comment to that as well, because others might also be resonating with that as well. All right, so let's dive in and get started. So when I am talking about energy, there's lots of different types of energy. So when I'm talking about energy for the purpose of this conversation, I'm talking about the energy that's the juice that gets us going. I'm not talking about like magnetic type energy, like law of attraction type energy. I'm talking about literally the energy that gets us out of bed in the morning, gets us out of our seat, and gets us moving. So this is the type of energy that allows us to think clearly. It allows us to get into action, take action, be in motion. It allows us to be able to engage and be present with other people on a deeper level. That's something that introverts do very, very well, but we need to be energetically, not necessarily completely full, but we can't be on empty in order to be able to do that. This is the energy that helps us to feel more confident. So when we are drained, that can sometimes cause our confidence to take a hit. Because a lot of times when we're drained, it's because we've pushed ourselves to be more out there, to be more extroverted, to tell ourselves that we have to do that. And as a result, we end up like in completely drained and on empty. And then we judge ourselves more harshly because we couldn't keep up with the extroverts. And again, our confidence takes a hit. So this energy, again, this is all about the energy that allows us to be an active participant in our lives and not completely laying on the couch in like a puddle of no energy. So this is what allows us to get out there and get into the world. Now, this is true for introverts and extroverts, but this is a little bit different for introverts, and it's more important. Well, not more important, but it's important specifically for introverts to understand this because of how we source our energy. So introverts, you may already be aware of this, but introverts, we source our energy from turning within, being within our own world. And so that's, getting lost in our thoughts, being in calm environments, being in quiet environments, being in our home where we feel safe and secure. Again, this is how we are biologically wired. We need those calm, quiet spaces so we can turn within, so that we can get that flood of acetylcholine, which I talked about last week. And so this is just, again, how we're wired. So one of the things I like to think about or like to share with people is when we think about this concept is because extroverts get their energy from being out in the world, and that has for over 100 years been kind of the dominant way of being, if you will. It's been kind of the prioritized way of being in our society. The world isn't designed, and when I say world, it's really like the Western world when we think about that, but the world that we navigate each day isn't designed for how introverts source our energy. It's designed for how extroverts source their energy. So that means, active environments, lots of, like at work, lots of group work, teamwork, happy hour, group lunches, everybody talking and sharing what's on their mind, getting together, like hive mentality to work through things and discuss and brainstorm. All of that's designed because that's what refuels extroverts, but it's not what refuels us. So this is why it's really important to be aware of this. Now, extroverts, as they move throughout their day, like as they get up and start to move throughout their day, and they're interacting with other people and meetings and all this stuff, they are basically just not refilling, but filling their cup even more full as they go through the day. They're just picking up more energy as they go along. Whereas for us as introverts, it's the opposite. From the minute we get up in the morning and we start to navigate our world and our day, even if we're at home, our energy starts to drop. So it's kind of like when you go buy a brand new car. I think we all know as soon as you drive off the parking lot from the dealer, after you've signed the paperwork and they've given you the keys, as soon as you drive off the parking lot, what happens? depreciation kicks in, and your car, your brand new car, is worth less than it was 5 minutes ago when it was sitting on the dealer's lot. So it's kind of the same thing with our energy. As soon as we get up in the morning, boom, we start to take a hit. Now, with that said, I'm speaking about all of this from very high level, broad strokes. I know that there are things that will drain extroverts during the day as well. It's not like throughout the day they are always like full of energy. So I'm just kind of speaking high level, broad strokes, just to help explain from a high level what the differences are between introverts and extroverts when we're talking about energy. Because when you understand how your energy works, then you can be more intentional in actually protecting your energy, which again, this is the key to thriving. So is all of this making sense? Does anybody have any questions on anything? If so, feel free to drop it in the comments and I will be sure to check that out, but we will keep moving on here. So now we're going to talk a little bit about how our energy actually works as introverts. So in a nutshell, not a surprise, you've probably heard this before, if not from me, then just in general, or just from experiencing it yourself. But introverts gain energy from being more on our own. We source it from within. It's so getting lost in our thoughts. So because we are internally focused, we need more of that acetylcholine. Again, I talked about that last week. That is just a neurotransmitter. It's a chemical in our body that allows us to feel really calm. And introverts have a higher need for that than extroverts. So we like those calm, quiet environments because it's almost like turning the tap on for that acetylcholine, which we need lots of in order to feel happy, content, calm, and safe and secure. Our nervous system is also triggered more from being in those external environments. So this is why we source our energy from within. So to explain this a little bit, I love to use metaphors to explain things because I feel like it helps bring intangible concepts into a bit more of a tangible perspective. So I want to explain like how our energy works during the day using cell phone. We all have one, right? We all have a cell phone. It's usually attached to our hands. We have it from the time we get up, from the time we go to bed, and we understand how a cell phone works, right? So we get up. Now, I don't know about you, but I like to charge my phone overnight. So when I wake up in the morning, it's at 100%, full of charge. So it's ready for the day. Now, as soon as I get up in the morning, the battery is going to start and unplug it. Then the battery is going to start to lose power, right? It's going to start to lose some of its energy, if you will. Even if I'm not using it, even if I don't touch it for the rest of the day, if it's not connected to a power source, it's going to lose some of the battery power. Now, it may not lose a ton of power. Probably if I don't use it the whole day, by the time I get to the end of the day, it might be at like, I guess it depends on the health of the battery, but it might be at like, 80% or something like that. But if I'm like watching videos during the day, or if I was playing video games or something like that, the battery's going to drain a lot faster, right? Versus if I'm just maybe scrolling Instagram or checking some emails or maybe having a phone conversation, it's going to drain slower if I'm just doing those type of things. But like if I'm doing a video call or a Zoom meeting or again, a YouTube videos, then it's going to make the battery drain a lot faster. So there could be some days where I'm going to need to recharge the phone during the day, right? And other days, if I don't use it as much, I'm able to go the whole day without recharging it. But at some point, I have to recharge my phone. This is kind of how it is for introverts. As we go through the day, there are different things that take more of our energy. So being in meetings, being in social environments, those are kind of like the equivalent of the videos for the phone. It's going to drain us a lot faster. So being aware of that, it just helps us to start to maybe plan our days a little bit better. Maybe we don't pack too many videos into one day, if you will. Or maybe we want to spread it out. Maybe we do want to pack it into one day and leave the rest of the week not quite as crazy. So having that knowledge allows us to better plan our days. But it also gives us the opportunity to not judge ourselves. Like we don't judge our phones, right? We don't say, gosh, how terrible is this phone that I have to like recharge it in the middle of the day because I was watching videos. Like we don't judge it. It's just kind of how it is, right? I mean, it makes sense. So what if we could extend that same sort of understanding to ourselves? Well, of course, I'm going to need a little bit of recharging if I've been in 3 video calls all morning long. yeah, I'm probably going to maybe need to take a walk at lunch by myself just to get that little quick reboost. Just like plugging your phone back in and recharging it for an hour if you've been using it a lot, right? So same kind of thing. It's being aware of what drains it so that you can figure out ways to balance it out and recharge it, right? So when we think about what specifically drains our energy, you probably know what drains your energy to some extent. I mean, the number one thing that most introverts say drain them is people, right? Other people. And that's nothing against all the people in our lives. We love the people in our lives, but it can be draining. And that's okay. But there are other things that drain us besides just people. There are things like events. Now, part of that could be because there are people there, but with events, there's usually a lot of activity going on. There's a lot of, external stimuli going on. There's just a lot going on, and that tends to drain us as well. Events, we're usually not at home, right? So we're out of like our safe, comfortable environment. Some other things that can drain us are like demands on our time, which could be demands that we're placing on our time, demands that other people are placing on our time, and then also forcing ourselves to do things that are not in flow state. So flow state is when we get into that place where we are doing something where we lose all track of time. We're totally focused on what we're doing. We're having such a great time doing it. We're enjoying it so much that hours can pass and we don't even realize it. That is like turning on the faucet for acetylcholine, and just letting it flow through our body. Like introverts need that. And so if we are forcing ourselves to not be in flow state, it's going to cost us energy. Now, the more external demand there is on us, the faster our batteries are going to drain. So if you're at an event with tons and tons of people or lots and lots of noise, your energy is going to drain a lot faster than if you were at something with less people and it's quieter, right? So again, it's like watching videos on your phone versus like scrolling or checking email. So it's just something to be aware of. Now, there are going to be certain people or certain situations that might be more draining than others. So certain people are going to, people that you're more comfortable with, that you know better, are probably going to drain you less quickly than people that you just met or, people that you don't know as well. People who are constant talkers, they're probably going to drain you a little faster than people who like to pause and take breaks when they're talking, or maybe it's a more engaged conversation and not as one-sided, mainly because just that's a lot of things coming in, but it's also, as introverts, we're really, really good listeners. We listen on a deeper level and it takes more energy. So one other thing I want to mention in terms of what drains you is something that you might not have thought about, and that is yourself. And more specifically, when I'm talking about that, I'm talking about your thoughts, what's happening in your brain. Now, not all thoughts are created equal. As introverts, we have a very active prefrontal cortex, just as part of our biology. So we think a lot. We're constantly thinking. There's lots and lots of thoughts happening at all times. So I don't want you to think like, oh my gosh, every time I'm thinking of stuff, I'm draining my energy. I'm specifically talking about the negative, judgy thoughts about ourselves. So those thoughts that are like, oh, why did I do that? Why do I have to do that? What should I do? Should I have done that? I should have done that. Or maybe I should do this. Or, rehashing events from the past. Oh, why did I say that? Or, wondering like, God, what's wrong with me? Like, who am I to do that? Maybe it's just, overthinking things. We tend to be, because of that very active prefrontal cortex, we tend to overthink a lot of things. So the worrying, the anticipation, anytime you're judging yourself harshly, those are all very heavy negative emotions, and they cost you energy. Okay. Now, things like brainstorming, daydreaming, those are the types of thoughts that will refuel you. So it's really about being aware of those negative, judging, overthinking, worrying thoughts, because they're costing you energy. They're kind of, if we go back to the phone, to that metaphor, to that example, it's like all the apps that are running in the background that you may not be aware are still open. And so maybe you have a day where you don't use your phone that much, but you look down at your phone and like, why is my phone down at like 25%? I've barely used it today. And it's because you have all of these other apps open on your phone running at the same time, and they're just running in the background. So you have to go on and like close them all out, right? It's the same thing. That's how those judgy, negative, overthinking, anticipation, harsh, self-judging thoughts are. They're like those apps running in the background that's just stealing our energy. So Let's now talk about what refuels us. Now, you probably have a good idea of what refuels you. It's going to be a little bit different for everybody, but it's really anything that allows you to turn your attention inward. So that could be obviously solo time, sitting by yourself quietly, reading, taking a nap. Maybe it's getting a workout in, being out in nature. A lot of introverts love that. It could be again engaging in some sort of artistic, creative hobby where you just lose all track of time and it lets you get into that creative flow. So the more that you can build those into your day, the more you're going to be able to sustain your energy for longer. So the key is just to not judge yourself for taking the time to do those things. It's not selfish to do that. Like you need it. Just as like it's not selfish to charge your, to plug your phone in and charge your phone. It's not selfish to like plug you in to charge you either. So now let's talk about tips for managing your energy. So the key to managing your energy is to get really, really familiar with your energetic patterns. What drains you? What refuels you? Now, some of those right off the top of your head, but I'm betting there are things that you're just so used to that you're not even aware of. So the trick is to track your energy, and I have a workbook. I'm going to throw a link up here. You can grab this energy management workbook that I have where it will walk you through how to track your energy throughout basically over about at least a week, if not 2 weeks. The longer you do it and the more you write down, the more data you're going to have to analyze. But the goal is to write down, check in with yourself, how you're feeling, where your energy's at, what's been happening, what have you been thinking, what's, all of these things. And then after like a week or two, you can go back and start to see trends and patterns of what is actually causing you to feel more energized and what is actually draining you. And this is super, super helpful because then you can start to put together an energetic plan for yourself to increase the boost, the things that boost you, and prioritize those, and minimize the things that are draining you so that you can stay on top of your energy a little bit better. Now, one other thing you can do to help with the things that are draining you once you have more ideas on what that actually is make sure you get more context around things. That is going to help you to lessen the worry, the overthinking, the anticipation, because a lot of that anticipation and worry that is happening is because you don't have enough details to know how much energy this event or this conversation or this whatever it is going to take from you. Also, as introverts, if it's something like a meeting or a presentation, since we don't think, because we are internal processors and we need to think through things before we speak, we need that time. We're not the best at thinking on our feet. So we need that time to prep what we're going to say. But just make sure you get context on things. If you have an event coming up and you're feeling a little bit, concerned about, how many people are going to be there? Like, is this going to drain me? Ask how many people are going to come. If it's a conversation, ask whoever's asked you to have a conversation, your boss or whatever. Like, well, what are we going to talk about? I just want to make sure I'm prepared. If it's a meeting or a presentation, ask like, what do I need to have prepared for this? The more that you know, the more context you have, then the more you're going to be able to prepare not only what to say, but from an energy side of things, like how much of the energy is this going to take? So do I need to do anything beforehand to like boost my energy up? Or can I build in time afterwards to recharge if this is something that's going to take too much of my energy? All right. And then the last thing is to make sure two things. One, watch your thoughts. Make sure that you're catching those judgy thoughts and those overthinking, and try to catch those because that's going to help you to just retain some of your energy. And also it's really important to set energetic boundaries for yourself so that you are protecting your energy. And that can look like putting boundaries around how many events you might attend in a single month. Maybe it's like, okay, I can only make it to 3 events. Maybe it's putting boundaries around how much time you actually spend at an event. So maybe 3 hours versus 6 hours. Maybe it is boundaries around how much time you get to recharge, like on your own, like how often or how much time you get to do that. It could be setting a boundary around quiet hours. I do that. Like I love the morning, but I can't handle a lot of like talking to me first thing in the morning. So first thing in the morning is my quiet hours, and I have a boundary around that. Boundaries sometimes are not just with other people. Sometimes we have to make those with ourselves too. So just keep that in mind. And next month, I'm going to be focusing all on boundaries for introverts. So make sure to stay in my world, because each of the weekly lives will be about energetic, or not just energetic boundaries, but just boundaries in general for introverts. So be on the watch for that. So today, I know we're getting close on time. So just to wrap up what we talked about today, I talked about why energy is important for introverts. And again, it's because of how we source our energy and the fact that the world is not really designed in a way that supports how we source our energy. It's designed more for how extroverts source our energy. We talked about how energy works, just referring to the cell phone and how our cell phones work. It's a lot about similar to how we work as introverts with our energy. Also talked about what refuels us, what drains us. The more you can get familiar with your energetic patterns, the more you're going to be able to better manage your energy, which is what we talked about at the end. Now, if this is something that, well, actually next week, part 4 is going to be all about that. This will be the final part of this 4-part series. And I'm going to be talking about confidence, sourcing confidence from within. So we're going to start talking about that unconditional confidence, and so that you can start to tap into your own inner power. So it'll be at the same time, 5:30 Eastern next Thursday. And yeah, be sure to grab the workbook if that's something that you would like to start exploring, so you understand your energy. And if this is something that you struggle with, if you struggle with understanding how to manage your time, if you struggle with thinking that being an introvert is a limitation, or you feel discouraged trying to get out into the world and really make your mark without having to pretend to be more extroverted, then this is what I do with my clients. This is what I help them with. So I invite you to book a complimentary call with me. It's a confidence kickstart call, and we can explore what's going on. We can explore what your goals are, what's been getting in the way. And if it makes sense to talk about working together, then we can certainly talk about that as well. I have several different options to work with me one-on-one, so I can share those with you as well. So with that in mind, I will open it up to any questions. So if anybody has any questions or comments, please leave those in the comment section, and I'm happy to answer those before we officially wrap things up and end today's session. All right, so I don't see any questions or comments coming in, which is fine. If you think of any later, or if you're watching the replay and you want to drop those into the comment section, please do. Thank you, Patricia. Please let me know, and I'm happy, or you can DM them to me if you don't feel comfortable leaving them in a more public forum. Either any of that works, but let me know if you have any questions or comments. I would love to help you out with those. So thank you so much for showing up today, and I look forward to seeing you next week.